At first, I thought it was just a minor logo change and then life would go on, but then I soon realized that it was far more than that.
Welcome to the Monarch Experience Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Ancona. Here at the Monarch Experience Podcast, we are giving students the platform to be able to voice their opinions about what matters most to them. We are Student Voice, and today we are going to have you get to know, get to meet, get to greet. What else rhymes with meet, greet? Get to beat? No, we're not going to hurt you, Alan. We get to have a sit-down chat with our logo design winner, Memorial's very own Alan Liang, our very own Monarch Experience logo design winner. By now, we're pretty much updated, I think, everywhere online. I saw it on Spotify, I saw it on iTunes, I saw it on Anchor. Student Council ran this contest back in the winter. We had 20 amazing entries, 19 actually, I think, amazing entries during the 2-month span that we ran this thing, and Alan was our winner. Student Council chose Alan. I love the logo. I loved a lot of the logos, so I guess I need to start off this episode with a major shout out to all of these students that participated in the logo design contest. I kind of was thinking about this idea like a year ago maybe, but couldn't really kind of get it off the ground. Student Council came up with this really cool idea as far as like, hey, let's, when I told them I wanted to maybe do something like this, they were like, what if we did like a contest? And we ran with it, put out the contest, got a lot of people kind of asking questions about it. And obviously 20 submissions or 19 submissions that by now I'm sure everyone's gotten to see during the video. That host with that jacket was fantastic. That's what I've been hearing. People have been telling me, but what do I know? And Alan ended up being our winner. Student Council, when we went through all the logos, meticulously toiled over all the things and all the criteria. Alan was one of the many that hit, all parts of the criteria. But Alan, how does it feel to be le champion?
It feels awesome. I was a bit worried about my logo because it wasn't exactly the most lighthearted logo out there. So, that was the one thing I thought I could improve on my logo, but how I made it, the thing I liked the most about my logo was its eyes. It really brought it to life. But then at the same time, when you use the eyes, it made it look a bit fiercer than it should have been. So I wasn't sure about it, but at the end I decided to put it.
Yeah, we're going to definitely talk about that process and that word fierce or ferocious. That word was... If I do a Google search on my emails, I think it's going to take us right to our email chain. But we'll chat about that in a little bit. So what's the experience, no pun intended, what's the experience been like? Walk me through from your perspective. So you're watching this video. You watched the video, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You're watching this video and you're seeing all the other submissions. We get your submission up there somewhere. I think yours was number 10. It was number 10. I know that because I had to label them because I think you were the 10th submission that we got. So you're seeing all these other logos come in, and what's your thought as you're looking at them? Are you immediately comparing what you did to theirs? What's your thought process there?
Oh, I immediately started comparing them, looking at the upsides and downsides of each of the logo because I basically had the criteria memorized because I kept going over and over at it. And there was a couple of good ones I liked a lot, and some of them really nailed certain parts of the criteria, and others also hit different regions of the criteria.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. There were so many great conversations that we had with Student Council where we were going through these, and we were like, man, like this one's got, and we're not going to go through each one, but like there were certain ones where I remember we were like, this one is just completely capturing the podcast vibe. And like, this one's really doing a great job with the color scheme. This one's doing such an awesome job with like keeping it lighthearted. Like that was their focus. And I think that's what made it so challenging for us to pick the winner, was that there's so many components of so many of them that were so fantastic. So now that the stickers the posters are all up around the building, you haven't been in the building yet. So that hasn't happened yet. I am so curious to see your reaction when you walk into the building, hopefully next year, right? And one of the first things you see as you walk in is your logo. And then as you're going down the 8th grade hallway to go to lunch or to go to phys ed, your logo. And then as you kind of pop into certain classrooms and certain teachers have the logo up, and you're gonna see your design. And then when you go into iTunes or when you go into Anchor and you're pulling it up to listen to an episode that you're on or someone else is on, you're seeing your logo. Or when you're eating lunch in the cafeteria next year, hopefully, right? It's totally normal. You're allowed to like eat lunch and turn around and all that. And you see on both sides of the soundstage your logo. When you go online and you see your logo on iTunes, does that hit you yet? What's that going to be like for you?
Well, it hasn't. The full momentum of it hasn't really hit me. I have a couple of friends who've gone into school, and one in particular told me that my logo is all across the school. And it was quite shocking because I didn't expect it to be so major. I just thought it would be like a subtle logo change, and then that's it. I never really expected it to become such a big thing.
So, Alan, you said subtle. Have you not met the host? Did you not see the video with the obnoxious jacket and all of Bucci's incredible American Idol editing? No subtlety. The Monarch experience is not about subtlety.
Yeah, well, I mean, at first I thought it was just a minor logo change and then life would go on, but then I soon realized that it was far more than that.
And I love that. When did that happen for you? When you realized, like, oh, this is kind of what did I get myself into? This is a bigger deal than I thought.
It started when I realized that you would actually make a video out of this, and you put time into editing the video to make it look good. I expected it to maybe be like a little blog post or just a post on Google Classroom announcing the winner of the logo. I didn't expect it to be a video. When I realized that it was a video, then I realized things were getting real.
Oh, I love that. I love seeing your smile when you said that too. The video, it's especially for all of our listeners that are listening right now who watch the video too. Student council kind of looked at it as like an opportunity, as like great advertising. We were like, look, we can take a flex period to do something big. Like we could totally just peel down. And I told them, I was like, we could completely just peel down the old logo and I could just update it on online on all the platforms and done, logo change. And I was like, but we also could make this thing as like big as possible and just do something grand. I'm a big fan of doing things grand, but I also just felt like it was deserved for whoever that winner was going to be. And this is before, we even got any submissions. I kind of started telling them, like, we got to start thinking about how we want to unveil this, because we have this opportunity. And I know I spoke about this with kind of Victoria and Madison and Sammy on the video, but like we have this opportunity to do something very creative that we've never done. We could play it really safe, which will be easy and it'll go fine. We could play this really safe and just simply go, here's a new logo. Or we could just do something we've never done, and it could be a gigantic flop or a gigantic failure. Or we could really we could take the chance, and maybe it'll be something great. I'd much rather take the chance. And I'm glad we did, because I think ultimately it was a big success. And we got more people involved and more people's eyes on it than if we had done it any other way. So knowing that there were so many eyes on it, what were your friends reacting to? How were your friends reacting? How were you reacting?
My friends were super excited. They thought I would win from the start. I didn't really expect it because my logo wasn't lighthearted. It was a bit on the fierce side, so...
Fierce. That was the word, right? You had the first email I think you emailed me about, I think there were like 100 between us.
Yeah.
You had, and you were so open to feedback. We'll talk about that too. You were like, can it be fierce? And I remember seeing that email, and I didn't know you. I think we had maybe exchanged a couple emails prior about like just episodes, and I'm like, fierce. I was like, what does he mean? I mean, I know what the word fierce means, or ferocious was your word. I was like, I know what ferocious means, but like, what's that going to look like?
I don't socialize with a lot of people, but it just happens that you're in large group chats and then you just happen to get to know everybody. So all of a sudden, there was just like a large amount of messages pouring in with congratulations,
Cool.
and yeah, it was exciting.
I think what's got to be real, probably maybe even hard for you to like process too, because you're still taking it in with like how big of a deal this is, how big of a deal is, but like how big this is. The whole 34 states and 20 countries is not like propaganda to get people to listen. Psych, like we really do have downloads in 34 states and in 20 countries. And the one thing I kind of kept I keep in touch with Chloe, our original designer, and I always kind of like we laughed about it on the video, but I still kind of laugh like you created this logo and people in Dominican Republic are seeing it when they check in because they hear about this podcast that is encouraging student voice, or when teachers in Hawaii, we're in Hawaii, or teachers in Pennsylvania maybe, or teachers in any of the other states that listen to us are like, I kind of want to see how like this podcast is utilizing student voice. This is cool. I want to hear this. They're seeing your logo now first. Like that's their introduction to the podcast.
Well, I'll try to keep quiet about it because I don't exactly want to spread attention. But then it'll also be interesting seeing my own design on a T-shirt.
Yeah, I wonder how fast you're gonna get sick of it because you definitely strike me as like a perfectionist. Is that how you are?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to perfect the logo.
What was your creative process like? Because I love getting to kind of pick the brain of creative people to see how they go about doing this. Where did you start? I know we were in contact for a while. Where did you start, and then kind of how did it evolve from there?
I started with just browsing Unsplash, which I find is a great source for inspiration and images that you can use. And then after that, I also took a look at the internet, because not everything is in one place. And then I found some inspiration. And then after that, I just played around with font. YouTube was helpful when it came to looking at fonts and different type effects. And then for the image, I spent majority of my time there because I believe I had already chosen my font by the time I was trying to work with my image. And then after the image, well, it was just a matter of putting together the logo. And then I remember one day I looked down on my laptop, trying to figure out what to do with the title of the podcast and the image. And then there was like this NVIDIA logo, and it was a sticker, and it was super simple, and I liked it, so I went with it. And I ended up with the current logo of the podcast.
That's awesome. So talk to me about, people are going to want to know about the image, right? I think what makes your logo stand out, there's a lot of things I think that make it stand out. I think the font not getting in the way is one of them, especially when you have such an amazing image that is the thing that is your eyes are drawn to. How did you draw that, man? Because like people are asking me and I don't know how to answer it. They're like, did he draw that? How did he draw that? Is that by hand? Is that digitally? Like, how did he even do that? And I'm like, I don't know. So Alan, tell them, how did you do this?
So I drew this digitally, and so I used this pen tool in an app, and then you can draw certain shapes, and they've had two pen tools. One of them, it's like an older version. The curves and everything of the shapes aren't as fluid, and then the second version is more fluid, but then you have to dig deeper to find the features that you're looking for that were previously, you could just find them with these in the first pen. And then using that pen tool, you can mess around with shapes. And then after that, it was pretty easy, but then at times it gets a bit annoying, and you had to fiddle around with it a bit, but the pen tool made it extremely easy to draw the line.
Dude, that's unbelievable. I still remember when I first saw it, I kind of like literally, if I say, I had to take a step back, like I actually had to move back from the screen because I couldn't take in what I was seeing because I couldn't understand, is this an image he used? Did he draw this? Is this like something he just copied from somewhere? I couldn't even figure out how it went from brain to page or screen. And obviously you're talking a lot about some of the inspirations that you mentioned, and I try to like look up some of them that you referenced. And like, I don't see it, but I think that's so cool that like you use it as inspiration, even though it may not be detectable to other people. And I think that's what makes like, when we talk about inspirations, like really, really good is you're borrowing from something, but you're not just flat out like copying or taking something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When people saw your video, or sorry, your logo, my students in homeroom, there was an audible gasp. I just want you to know that. So I'm showing this to them. We get to the part where they're doing that, and they're like, and they're reacting to them. You know, they're oh, all right, and they're like, oh, I like this. Like they're getting into it. And I appreciate that about my homeroom so much, even though I guess I got to say something positive about them. I love my homeroom; they're amazing, and they reacted so amazingly to all the logos. And when they saw yours, they audibly gasped. Like it was almost like a horror movie, but like a good horror movie, because there was like this sense of that was happening, and it was really cool. And then when I looked at the chat, there were people that were like spamming the chat that were online that were watching it too, that were like, that needs to win. That is amazing. Oh, like they just like couldn't stop. They were spamming the chat. They couldn't stop. So it was really cool knowing what I knew as they were watching it in live time, and hearing their reactions like that was really cool. And people have just been, now that the image is blown up in the school too, and you can see it in such large detail, they're like, man, the detail on this thing is so intense.
So you mentioned detail, and that was definitely a critical point for me. I really wanted to perfect the details, even the minor details, because if you miss like this tiny little color, if you zoom in enough, then it's not a tiny dot of color, it's a huge ocean of color. So I really wanted to make sure that, well, at least I could assure myself that it was perfect. In the end, that wasn't possible. There was definitely other ways I could have gone that I think I would have gotten a better result. But there was different risks with every single strategy. So it was nice. And then seeing the other logos, it was nerve-wracking because all of the other logos, they were also pretty good.
Yeah.
One in particular I liked. I thought I was going to win because of its lightheartedness, and it was also pretty simple. Apart from that, there was my family and friends also supported me. Massive shout out to Serena and the others, and my family who supported me throughout the entire thing. And apart from that, it was an interesting process, because this is probably one of the first times I've actually designed a logo instead of just creating, for example, digital artwork.
Wow. What's the difference between the two? Between creating digital artwork and then designing the logo? Is it the design process?
So, when I first got into digital design and the whole world involved with it, there was a lot of concepts you had to learn, and at the time, I wasn't playing around with certain shapes and stuff. I was still trying to get a grasp on the basics. Even now, it's all the strategies and different ways you design logos and illustrations. It's still a work in progress for me to completely understand. So at first, I just took a look at how it works, and when you design logos, there's different focuses. There's different focuses when it comes to designing a logo, because you want certain parts to stand out from the others. Meanwhile, in illustrations, you can just design the entire thing, and if you want, you can adjust things so that it stands out more than others. But for the most part, illustrations are just about creating something that people can appreciate, and something that's unique in its own way.
Yeah, there's like almost what I'm hearing is it's like there's almost like a simplicity behind a logo compared to the illustration. You can kind of just do whatever you want. There's almost like no rules. You know, you said something that really stood out to me, and this is why I feel like I know you really well with how much we've talked throughout the last couple of months. But I really respect this about you and your creative process is you're still kind of critical right now over the logo. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for some people hearing that, they're looking at your logo and just going, what is he talking about? How is he critical? I could never even try that if I had a million attempts. But I think as a creative person, what I'm hearing is like, because I can get like this too. You put so much work in, and you finally get to a point where you're like, I'm done. This is great. I'm very confident in this. I feel really strongly about this. And then you're finished with it. And then like once you give yourself that little mental break, you start kind of nitpicking things like, I could have done this. I could have done that. That little self-doubt comes in. Is that kind of what's happening here?
So when you design logos, you tend to get so immersed in your work you don't realize time passes, and then when you have to go, well, when you come back to your work, you'll look at it differently.
Yeah.
And after you look at it differently, then you see different areas in which you can improve on. And this happens not only in graphics design, but for example, just drawing by hand, like a second pair of eyes, or just taking a break and then coming back to it often gives you a second perspective.
What I think is really interesting is you said to get away from something or to get another pair of eyes. Sometimes if you don't have another pair of eyes to look at it, it's your own pair of eyes, but with a break. And I tell my students that so often. If they're working, obviously if they're working really hard at something, whether it's the writing process, a lot of times I'm like, you need to get away from that quote unquote final draft that you've created for like 24 hours. Because if you try to like edit right after you're done creating it, you're not going to see anything, whether it's mistakes or just ways you can make that product better, whether it's writing or graphic design or anything. You have to get away from it. You need to get like a good night's sleep or at least 24 hours to look at it with a totally different perspective sometimes. And that can be invaluable. You mentioned some people that were giving you a little bit of help, and you said Jasmine. Is this Jasmine, Shrina, and Rihanna, the Harry Potter trio that I know?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's the trio.
Yeah, the trio. Well, Jasmine, Shrina, and Rihanna, shout out to obviously you three, because I had a blast getting a chat with you about Harry Potter. Still haven't watched it yet. So Alan, we've been alluding to this. I'm sure some of our listeners are kind of like, wow, 100 emails. I could pull up the exact number. It's probably like 85.
Yeah.
You sent
79.
79 to be exact. Back and forth during this process. And for those of us who are like, wait, what? He got feedback? Yeah, he asked. And I think and that had no influence on student council. They didn't know about the feedback. And it had no influence on my decision. It was just, you asked for feedback. And I don't think there were really anybody else, definitely not 79 emails worth, people who asked for feedback. And I was really nervous about doing that. But I felt like, you know what? I'm a big proponent of you don't ask, you don't get. So I really love that you reached out during the process to kind of like not even pick my brain. I think you were just like, hey, here's where I'm going. What if I said no? What did you kind of anticipate when you reached out to me?
I didn't really anticipate anything. At first it was just questions, but then eventually I just decided to ask for feedback because why not? If you said no, well, I wouldn't really take it to heart. There'd still be other people willing to offer feedback.
Exactly.
And it's expected if you would say no, because I believe you're one of the organizers of the contest. So if you didn't offer feedback, then it would be normal for me because you're the organizer, and I would look a bit suspicious.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Also, I want to make sure people are not misunderstanding what we're talking about. Alan sent me. He was like, "Here's where I think I'm going with this. It's a bit ferocious." And then sent me like the image, and it really didn't change too much. I know you said you changed a bunch of minor details here or there, colors and stuff like that. And I just kind of gave you feedback on what I thought. There was at no point, and I believe this because when we were chatting through lessons learned through sports, I had asked you like, are you nervous? What are your thoughts? And I didn't get the feeling that you thought it was in the bag at all. Like you definitely were like, I just want to know at this point. I have no idea either way. And I was really self-conscious about when we were having, emails back and forth about feedback of never letting any kind of feeling about, ooh, this looks like it would win, or this is the forefront winner, or anything like that happen. And it seems like I did a good job at that because you totally had no idea. Feedback, I think, is so important. And I think like allowing yourself to be susceptible to feedback takes a lot of maturity. We've obviously talked about your maturity on other episodes with just your perspective. And I think to be willing to get feedback, it's very easy to say, tell me what you think of this, but tell me it's good because I don't want to change things. You don't strike me as someone that's like that. You strike me more of, tell me the truth. Why is that so different?
So I've seen, well, on the internet, I also saw this image where it's tell me I'm beautiful, tell me I'm awesome, tell me I did great, but tell me the truth. The
Mm,
truth matters more than just telling someone that they did great. Because if you tell them they did great, then you can't improve at all. You can only reassure yourself you did great, even if it was a lie. Your
yeah.
work could be horrible, but people can tell you that it's great, and well, you'll walk away feeling awesome, but you won't know what to improve. And then at that point, your work will just peak at that point,
Mm.
and if you don't get any further feedback, then your work just stays the same.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think you, dude, I love that. I think you got to ask yourself, like, do I want to be told I'm awesome or do I want to get better? Those are two very different questions. And I think when we're looking for feedback, I think we want to sometimes know that we're awesome, but we also want to be able to find out, like, hey, how can I get better? And it's also important on who you ask. And it sounds like your family, obviously your friends, Shrina, Jasmine, the Harry Potter trio, and Rihanna. Like, it sounds like they probably are the type that can give you honest, appropriate feedback.
yeah, so
Sometimes.
before I even asked for the feedback, I told them to give it to me straight because I didn't want to hear anything. I didn't want to hear any, it was awesome or there's nothing you can do. This will
Yeah,
obviously win. I wanted to hear the straight out truth.
yeah.
So, when I got into the habit of just automatically giving it to me straight, that was definitely a plus because I didn't have to ask for it anymore. And, just honest feedback matters just about as close as my tools.
I love that. Yeah, man. You know, I like that you said you have to ask them, give it to me straight. I almost feel like you're probably like, listen, I know it's awesome. Don't tell me it's awesome. Tell me how I could get better. And again, I really think I'm a big believer in when it comes to feedback, especially like if you don't ask, you don't get. And I think you're someone who asked, so therefore you got feedback. What other? So as we're winding down here, Alan, what other projects are you working on, and where
So,
can people see designs or artwork that you've or other creative things that you've been a part of?
I haven't necessarily uploaded any work. I mostly keep the work to myself and the people that I'm designing it for. I'm working on this logo for a chess team that I play on Lee Chess. There's teams and forums and stuff. It's a great chess website. So I'm working on that, which it keeps me busy, but it also gives me an opportunity to use what I've learned from this logo on the next logo that I'll be working on. And apart from that, I've also digitalized some illustrations. But I mean, I haven't really done anything major except for this logo. So I'm still building up my portfolio.
Did you just Mr. Bucci told me you designed the website.
Oh yeah, so in digital magazine, we
Digital magazine, I'm sorry.
yeah, it's fine. So we post articles and we use Blogger. It's easy to use and intuitive, but there are some formatting errors and at the beginning of the year when the problems were emerging and it was obvious that it would be a struggle, and so I took a look at Blogger. I created my own sample blog, and then I looked at it, and then I realized there's a way you can edit the code instead of just the text. And then from there, it was pretty easy because you can add your own styling, so you can fix anything on your own. You can add your own custom styling for the website. So then it became easier, and I became some sort of a tech editor.
Yeah, Mr. Bucci was telling me like all about what you've done and how like you're basically going to have to teach like when you're in 8th grade, you're going to have to teach the 6th graders what you did because he has no idea how to keep it going. But that's really cool, man. Any takeaway that message that you would give other people that are maybe need that push to go and get themselves involved or do something different or put themselves out there or ask for feedback or any of these things that we've been talking about? Any advice or words of
Uh,
wisdom?
so like you said, you if you don't ask, then you don't get something. So you have to go the extra mile, and you actually have to ask someone. And then I saw this on a website for typography. They display quotes and stuff. They said make yourself big, or else it'll stay small. You have to spread word yourself, or else it won't. Your work does majority of the news spreading, but apart from that, you still have to make yourself known. You can't just rely on your work alone.
You have to be the advocate for it.
Yeah.
Alan, this has been such a joy getting to chat with you about the process. I have a feeling you and I maybe are going to be doing a creative process episode that I've been dying to do with various creative people down the line. But you are always welcome on the podcast. You are now forever attached to the podcast. Alan, thank you so much for doing this, man. It was great to get to know you a little bit more and have our audience get to know you a little bit more too, as they're going to be seeing your work a lot more than they probably realize. And I don't think that that's entirely hit Alan yet, how big this is. And I think it's really cool. At the end of the video reveal, the logo reveal video, I had a bunch of teachers also and a lot of my students too that were like, I didn't know this thing was so big. It's like, yeah, it is. Whether you're someone that listens to an episode here or there, thank you. Whether you're someone that listens to episodes consistently every time they come out every 2 weeks, basically, thank you. Whether you've jumped on just for one episode and it wasn't your style, thank you. I think the key that we're trying to do here is we're trying to amplify student voice. We're trying to give students a platform to talk about what matters to them. And that's not just a tagline. It is the truth. It is the most important thing for me as a teacher. Be able to allow my students to feel like what they have to say matters. And doing this podcast has been such a great opportunity to continue to develop that, not just in my classroom, but obviously within the school and the district as a whole. And it's been awesome. The logo design contest was a way to get students involved. And that's what this is all about. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at the Monarch XP. Add us on Snapchat at the Monarch Experience Podcast. Obviously, you look for the logo. And if you're looking for merch, check social media, PTA, or check the PTA website. We've got t-shirts. They look sweet. They're $12. We've got hoodies. They're $20. And pop sockets for $3. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Alan. Stay safe. Stay hungry.